Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell movement.
Welcome to the Powell movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and I need to apologize to you. Last week, I totally shit on Bodie Miller and Peak Skis. My rant touched on the fact that Bodie has screwed over friends, peers, his fans, his customers, and this is all true. But why I need to apologize is because I didn't shit on Andy Worth. For all the damage that Bodie has done, I mean, he's the face and race of the company, Andy Worth is the guy that everyone hated in Tahoe. Actually, everybody loved that guy when he first started his job in Tahoe. But then his true colors started shining, and he became the definition of the wolf in sheep's clothing. So with this Peak thing, while I want to blame Bodie, because it's easy to blame a guy who's so disconnected from reality that he thought he could just announce Peak was back and no one would care. And then when he realized how pissed off everyone was, he decided to issue an apology. Now, I don't know Bodie, but my take is that he's not a good businessman. If he was, he'd already be successful. So he brings in Andy Worth, and I'm going to guess all the business acumen, or lack thereof, falls on Andy's shoulders, which is crazy because he's supposed to be the smart guy here. Why do I care about this? I guess for two reasons. One, it sucks when the most famous person in a sport knowingly screws people over. And two, I'm sick of talking about my dead wife, so I'll bitch about something else. Enough complaining about those millionaires who want more of your money. Now it's time to get into the guests this week. And while Cody Cirillo started his career competing in slopestyle events like Dew Tour and AFP events, Cody's more than just a pro skier. He's the creative director over at Faction Skis. And when he's not at his desk being creative for Faction, he's focusing on rad personal projects. And his most recent project, 150 Hours from Home, a trip where he and Andrew Pollard head to Mongolia, comes out this week online. In the podcast, I thought the movie was already out, and I thought we were promoting a different project of Cody's. I can be an idiot sometimes. But it's all good because I never really do a great job of promoting new shit anyways. I'm more interested in the stories I want to tell, and Cody's is a good one. Before I get into it, I want to welcome Insta360 Video back to the podcast. These are the best action cameras on the market, and the footage, the editing software, the video quality, all of it is better than anything else out there. So please check out their ad, buy a camera, and when you do, you're going to get a free gift with purchase that goes along with it. You're going to be stoked. I also want to thank you for listening and the other amazing brands who make this podcast happen week in and week out. Those brands are Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Best Day Brewing, and Ski Idaho. Now it's time to chat with Cody Cirillo. You are known for being an innovator. At a time when the industry needed something new, you delivered Mother Nature ski poles to the market. I hear there's still a shit ton of inventory out there. Can you tell us about MNSP?
You really did some deep dive in, eh?
I had to, you got to make them interesting.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, there's a lot of inventory out there. We went through some lawsuit stuff, but we'll come back one of these days.
Did you guys see bamboo poles and you were like, we're going to clown them and we're just going to get sticks and make spoofs of it and kind of go on the internet, and people kind of jumped on board with it and thought it was funny?
Yeah, I think so. We just thought, we'll just go snap some twigs off some trees and go ski with them for a little bit, do like a fake little photo shoot. I don't know, we were like 17 or 18 or something. Thought it was funny. But we had people reach out, ask to get sponsored and stuff. It was pretty funny.
That is pretty funny. Well, we'll bring up something that's not as funny. I believe home base for you right now is Telluride. And in a nutshell, what the fuck is going on over there right now?
Well, yeah. Home right now in Telluride. Sadly, not in Japan. But resort's back open, so that's good. Ski Patrol and the resort reached an agreement. I don't think it was exactly what Patrol wanted with wage structures, but the income level was there, I guess. So that part is decent, I guess. But yeah, we were out of town for quite a bit and kind of came back into town right as this was all happening over the holidays. For people who don't know, Telluride Ski Patrol went on strike on the 27th. They weren't able to reach negotiations with the resort, so the resort closed. They were closed for like 10 days total, I think. But it was wild. It was starting to get pretty ugly in town. People were kind of turning on each other. It felt like a microcosm of what's going on globally or, nationally with politics. And I think for a lot of people in town trying to escape from politics and be able to go ski, but they couldn't do that. And it was brought right to the front door. So, yeah, it was tough.
So the half the town was all about we need to make our money, and then the other half of town was like, but we need to keep this affordable for the people that live here and can pay a living wage. But people couldn't make money with the thing being shut down. And the guy was so rich, he's like, I'll just call your bluff.
Yeah, kind of. I think I've learned a bit too. It's kind of gets a little murkier with a lot of other little things going on. But pretty much it's like, yeah, a billionaire owns the resort, wasn't paying the patrol what they wanted when they were trying to negotiate, which has been going on since the summer. And obviously living in Telluride is very difficult. The job of ski patrol is super demanding. So definitely staying with ski patrol. But yeah, then you have people in town when we lost a lot of tourism over the holidays. And now in January, I know numbers are down. We haven't had a great snow year, but with all this bad PR around the resort and around town, people aren't coming to Telluride and canceled their vacations. So yeah, it's been tough around here. So I feel for everybody whose jobs were impacted by it and for the community as a whole. We'd like to think we're a super strong community and here for each other. So hopefully we can just move forward. And I think it brought a lot of light to these issues that are kind of going on in mountain towns and affordability, in general. So.
Well, speaking about that, you live there. Do you own a house in Telluride?
Yeah, no chance.
So what do you have, like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath that's 800 square feet and you pay $5,000 for it or something like that?
No, we're pretty lucky. We have an awesome landlord who's been here for, since the 70s, and she wants young people to be here. So we were luckily able to, find a spot. Maybe we moved here during COVID, so we got pretty lucky with it, and our landlord's awesome.
But for a normal person, what would they, like a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1,000 square feet in Telluride, what would that cost?
Oof, who knows? I think the range is insane. I mean, you've got vacation houses that are like $60,000 a week or something.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's some wild money around here, but there's also a lot of young locals trying to make it work, finding ways to do it, and finding little holes here and there to sleep in. So I think it's what keeps the community here, though, pretty strong. If you want to be here, you really got to work at it and try to be here. And it seems like it'll let you know when it's done with you around here, but it's not transient like maybe some of the other ski towns because it is so hard to be here and there's not a lot of housing.
Yeah, I mean, you grew up on what, like exit 162 or something like that, right off the highway in Breckenridge?
Yep, grew up in Breck, so kind of ski town to ski town.
But different ski town, like you have Silverthorne 15 miles away from you there. Are you on an island in Telluride? Not an island, obviously, but just kind of cut off from the world?
Yeah, Telluride's tiny. You can't go anywhere without seeing anybody, which is also sometimes not the best. And you want a little bit of anonymity, but also days where you just go up to the hill by yourself. You're bound to meet with friends and be able to ski, or it's always nice to run into the community here.
Okay. So you grow up in Breckenridge, and we can hear your dog, and that is quite all right because it's a podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. It's a dog. My dog's usually scratching his nuts and making all these noises, and people wonder what I'm doing, but it's usually my dog doing stuff, and I never let them know that. So I definitely had some people be like, there were some weird noises going on after the podcast, and I let them know it was my dog, but during the podcast, they must be like, dude, he is one weird dude. But either way, I'm not a weird dude. You're not weird for your dog barking, and we'll get back into skiing. And growing up, it's like you, your brother, mom, and dad. Your dad was lucky, and he was like a remote worker early on. So he had like a really good job, and you guys didn't have to be ski bums, but you guys lived a ski life in Breckenridge, right? Like a good ski life.
Yeah, we were super fortunate with that. My parents were heavily supportive from when I was younger, getting into skiing. We started, like 3 years old. They had moved from California, decided with my dad's job that they could make it work in Breck. It seemed like an awesome place to raise a family. So they just kind of went for the leap and did it. We lived in a condo when we were young and started doing ski school and learning to ski. And then before you know it, we were on the club teams doing racing when we were little. And then kind of around middle school, probably started getting into mogul skiing.
And mogul skiing for you, is that where you first met Bobby Brown? Because you grew up in a place where Bobby's there and there's a whole lot of talent there. And the talent, a lot of it started racing, then got sick of the regimen of racing, went over to moguls, and then saw that there was something way cooler and eventually found the terrain parks. But like, who were you mogul skiing with back in the day?
Bobby was probably one of my first friends really on the mogul team. He was coming up from Denver. But Breck was really like the epicenter, I'd say, of park skiing and freestyle in general back in those days. I remember when I was little, there were quarter pipe contests in these parking lots, or they had a bunch of different events. The Spring Massive, I think they still had maybe a Pro Mogul Tour event at Breck. So I was kind of just in this world, I think, of watching the rise of freestyle. And that really kind of turned me on to moguls. We had a lot of, local club teams where moguls were starting to evolve and were new programs. And so I kind of got into Team Summit then, met Bobby, and then, we just kind of became obsessed with freestyle and skiing, I'd say.
When you think about the mogul program, was it something where that's what you were focused on and it was like, I'm going to be an Olympic mogul skier? Or were there other things going on in life that you were doing too? Because I know there was you were an Eagle Scout as well. So I would think that if you get that high in the Boy Scouts, there's a lot of nerding out in that world. What else takes up your time?
Yeah. Eagle Scouts in Breck, I think it was pretty chill compared to what we're used to. But, resume builder, I guess, when you're younger. But I had a great time, a lot of good outdoor skills. But for me, it was kind of skiing. Skiing was pretty much everything. I played soccer in high school, but skiing was really, I was taking off school all the time to go compete, mostly in moguls. And then I think I kind of shifted over to slopestyle when I was maybe 15 or 16 more full time. It was kind of this natural progression where we'd go to Mount Hood or something like that and be skiing with the mogul team, and Bobby and I would go off and build our own jumps, and we'd just be so hyped to go jump and weren't really caring about the moguls as much anymore. But I think it kind of evolved from, at the time when I was younger, we didn't really have a slopestyle program or something like that. And so moguls were the way to get into freestyle. But, 13 or Session 1242, those movies when I was younger, 13, I played on repeat all the time. And I think from that movie alone, I just knew I wanted to be a pro skier. I love the culture. I love the rebellious spirit. And I just love being on my skis.
That was what, 99, 2000, something like that?
Yeah, I was pretty young. And then it took me a little bit. My brother did moguls for a year, and then I convinced them to let me do it too, and kind of swap from racing.
And then when you make the shift, it's where you grew up, like we said, the Freeway Park was everything. But before it was everything, there was Area 51. It seemed like people gravitated towards that park first. Do you remember when Breck invested in the Freeway Park and it took over and it was everywhere you looked, there was a different pro?
Yeah, Breck was wild back then. I mean, it was really cool growing up. You'd be at the gym and you'd see Yoon Olsen or Simon Dumont or somebody, because everybody was coming to Breck to train. So it was really cool to kind of be a part of that and just watch people. I remember watching all the edits that were coming at that time, and for it to just be my home resort was so cool. And Breck had a freestyle team as well, or I guess park team, sponsored riders. And they had, Kerry Herman and Tanner Rainville, Delorme, and just all these kind of mega pros back to me in the day. So I had so many people to look up to when I was skiing the park there, which was cool.
And who were the people that kind of took you under their wing and that were cool to you?
Yeah, I'd say kind of everybody like that. I got on that Breck sponsored team when I was younger, and everybody was, we were kind of all riding together. It was awesome.
You were on the JV team, right? They had a varsity and a JV or something like that?
Yeah, pretty much. The varsity team, they had their names. They had plaques at the top of the park with their names, and I thought it was the sickest thing ever.
That was the goal? I'm going to get my name at the top of the park?
Yeah, and then I think they kind of disbanded that and got rid of them before I grew up a bit, but I thought it was so sick. But yeah, I mean, Tanner Rainville, he's still in Breck, which is rad, and get to see him a bit. But watching him always, the style, same with Adam Delorme, Duncan Adams as well was there at the same time. And then Bobby, of course, just so many great athletes. It was really cool.
And so you have so many different great athletes, personalities. You're meeting everyone. When all the events are coming in town, since you're part of Team Breck, do you get that early access and get to kind of hit the course and ski with all the people because you're part of that whole program?
Yeah, a little bit. I would do some of the contests, do tours, stuff like that, but we'd be able to go do early morning laps and do photo shoots quite a bit, which was incredible. There was a few times where I was able to join on some level 1 shoots that were going down at Breck, another matchstick shoot. But yeah, all kind of through Breckenridge at the time, which was awesome.
So you're competing a lot. You're doing well at the USASA stuff in high school. Was there a full-on belief I'm going to make the X Games, I'm going to make the Olympics? Or do you realize early on that Bobby and some of those other dudes are on a different level?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always kind of had that in the back of my mind. Maybe X Games or something like that. I was doing tours, I was doing Grand Prix, World Cups. SFR tour over in France and doing a lot of the AFP contests at the time to try to get points, to qualify for different things. But, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I don't know if I ever really loved competing as much, maybe, as some of those other people. I would kind of get a little scared, a little nervous, and I don't know if it was where my heart was at all the time. When I could kind of block it out, I did way better, but for the most part, I was, kind of existing, doing all right, but never kind of to where I thought my potential was, I guess.
Well, I mean, I've assessed you during my research and everything, and kind of like with, no feelings or anything, just assessing your career a little bit, because I do that every week. And when you look at your comp skiing, it was almost like a game that unlocked adventures for you. It was like, you're this dude who wants to travel the world and have all these experiences. And the game is, I can look at points here and I can look at points here. And if I can get these AFP points and these guys aren't going to this contest, so I can go there and get more points, then you can qualify to go to this country and do different things. And it was just all about fueling your adventure in skiing. Would that be fair to say? Or is that just me making bullshit up?
No, I mean, that's pretty fair, I'd say. That's what it was kind of felt like, though, back then. I mean, every kid from all over, the AFP was the way to do it, and you needed those points to get in the different contests. So if you wanted to be doing well and you wanted to qualify for Dew Tour, things like that, you had to have a point system. And so, it was kind of, I guess, gamified a bit.
Was the Dew Tour something that you qualified for and got on, or was it the open part that you were a part of? Because I couldn't figure that out, because when you mentioned Resume Builder early. Another big resume builder was the Dew Tour when you were like, I want to say you were a senior in high school or a freshman in college or whatever. It was like pretty early on in your career. And was it just like the open part, or were you like there with the lights and cameras, or how did it all work?
Yeah, I did it a couple years, qualified, and I think I started first through the open round and then qualified and went to the Killington stop as well, and then was able to do Breck again the next year, things like that.
Okay, so that was like you were on the big stage with all the real dudes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, being at Breck was rad. We had to compete at home. I never did great.
I mean, I think you did really well at Nationals one year. And the crazy thing with your contest stuff for me, at the end of your contest career, I think you won your last contest. Was it like you already decided you weren't going to compete, you didn't care anymore, and that's when you ski your best?
Yeah, I think so. I was there by myself too, and just like went and did it, won, and drove back home. I was like, whoa, okay. But yeah, let's see. I mean, won a few nationals when I was younger in USA, and then did some like North Face Opens, did well in those, had some podiums, and I think at a Dumont Cup, I was like top 10.
Okay.
So some things all over the board, just kind of depending on how I was skiing.
And you were traveling as much as you could then, right? Like any trip you could get on, it was like, I want to buy a plane ticket and go to that thing?
Yeah, I mean, I was working at a restaurant I was going to college in the fall, taking off every winter season, and then I'd be working at a restaurant, kind of save up and go try to compete.
I guess I got a little ahead of myself, but before you even got to college, I would think the highlight or one of the highlights of your ski career, and probably what fuels you to maybe want to be in the industry in some bigger fashion with film and video and stuff, is you got to be a part of the Orage Masters when you were a senior in high school. How did that happen, and how awesome was that?
Yeah, that was all time. That happened through a video contest. So Orage Masters that year had a video contest, and your crew could make a video to get selected, I guess, to be a team, because they kind of had film crews that year as their teams. They had a matchstick, level 1. And so me and my friends from Breck made a video, and we ended up winning and getting the ability to go compete in Sun Valley. It was mayhem. It was hilarious. We had such a good time. We flew first class. They put us into Sun Valley, or Boise, I guess. And we were all wearing sombreros on the airplane and our full kits that we were competing in. And we were just like children, but it was so fun.
Dude, they put you up in first class and treated you like kings? That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We got there. I think there was a 30 rack in the fridge, and we're all underage. We're all just fired up like, oh my God, this is going to be the best.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start out with Insta360 action cameras, the only 360 camera that matters these days. These are the best action cameras on the market. They capture everything around you in 8K 360-degree video. It's next to impossible to miss the shot, and your footage won't be shaky thanks to the super smooth stabilization system, which is so important when you're on the mountain. Insta360 developed their X5 and X4 Air cameras with skiers and snowboarders in mind, which means they feature a freeze-proof design, batteries with longer run times, and a super durable design that will have you getting footage from the park to powder. And when it comes to editing that footage, Insta360's proprietary editing program makes it easier than ever to create Hollywood-level content or just a simple edit for you and your friends to enjoy. It's easy. Insta360 is the best action camera on the market, and for listening to the Powell Movement, they're going to give you a special offer. When you head on over to Insta360.com, they're holding a ski bundle sale for their flagship 360-degree action cameras, including the X5 and X4 Air cameras. When you're at checkout after you make your purchase, enter the code POWELL, that's capital Powell, and you're going to get a free ski pole mount from the good folks at Insta360 Cameras. Next up, it's Elan Skis. And if you haven't skied on an award-winning ripstick yet, you're missing out on something that ski brands have long said wasn't an option. A lightweight ski that powers through anything and truly rips. It's game-changing. And Elan, while they've been around for 80 years, have been changing the game of modern skiing by doing things like adding side cut to straight skis with the Elan SCX, which changed the whole industry. They're building skis by skiers in a place with ski culture in the Slovenian Alps. And most importantly, they're supporting local shops. When the competition goes and starts selling direct, Elan sticks by their retailers who have been by them since the beginning. Elan is just built differently, and they innovate with a purpose, and that's to make your on-snow experience better, easier, and more fun. It's this approach that brought you the Ripstick and all of their award-winning skis. And when you're in the market for a new pair, visit an Elan retailer, demo a pair of their skis, and you'll know why Elan has built a cult following here in the States. To find out more about all the skis or to find an Elan dealer, head on over to elanskis.com. My final sponsor this round is Best Day Brewing, and now is the time to think snow. And skiers, snowboarders, weekend warriors, tubers, sledders, snowbikers, snowmobilers, snowshoers, sled doggers, shovel racers, snow angel makers, ice skaters, snowball fighters, igloo builders, you get it. The doers of winter are starting to get ready to shred, and post-shred, it's all about après. And this year, do après the right way. Forget about the calories, forget about the alcohol, forget about not taking more runs on the mountain, forget about getting in trouble on the way home, because with a beer from Best Day Brewing, you don't have to worry about any negative consequences. Just incredible flavor. Blind taste tests prove that you won't be able to taste the difference between a Best Day and your favorite beer with alcohol. The only difference you'll notice is how good you'll feel in the morning, and you're going to remember what you did last night, which is almost refreshing as a Best Day itself. To celebrate your best day yet, next time you're at the store, pick up a 6-pack of Best Day. Or you can always buy it on your Alaska Airlines flight, Amazon.com, or head on over to bestdaybrewing.com to get the full assortment of Best Days. Those are my sponsors. Now it's time to jump back into the podcast. You go to college for something bigger than the ski industry, I feel like, for the environment and maybe making a difference in the world. But the path that you're on right now, it's like, when did you find out that maybe you weren't going to be a huge name contest pro, but that you could carve your own little niche in the ski industry?
I think from a young age, I just really fell in love with the sport. And I think that's what's kept me going. And I think I've just been pretty lucky to find these different avenues lately of places where I can continue learning and exploring skiing. You know, I've had these different chapters, I guess, and competition was such a big one. And after that, now I have this whole new world that I've been exploring lately. But I think it was through all these different experiences, of course, growing up and like things like the Masters, where I've seen all these aspects of ski culture that has just made me love it.
You went to school, like you said, and you go to USC, and you're doing fall semester at school, and then you're taking the winter off, and you're skiing a bunch. And school is very expensive. I'm going to guess that your parents hopefully help you pay for it, because you went to one of the most expensive schools in the country, I feel like. But when I start talking about money, I want to talk about sponsorship as well. I think Faction for you starts in college, but were you on Fatty Puss before Faction?
Yeah, I was on Fatipus. They're a local Breck brand. One of the owners of Fatipus was an old ski coach and liked what I was doing and was starting to flow me some skis. And then Faction came over to the U.S. I knew what was going on. I had some friends who were riding for them at the time, Drew Peterson and Ian Borgerson. They were also kind of headquartered in Breck. And then I kind of got into the situation where I was going to Junior Worlds and I broke all of my Fatipus skis. And I reached out to the owner and was like, hey, this is the situation. I'm going to Italy in, a week for Junior Worlds. And he's like, yeah, like, unfortunately, I can't get you any skis. I was like, oh no, like, what am I going to do? I couldn't go buy any new skis or anything like that. I was a poor, like, high school, college kid at the time, whatever it was. And then I remember Rex, who was the North American manager for Faction, I had known him as well. And he told me one day, if you ever need anything, make sure to hit me up. And so I hit him up and was like, hey, I need some skis. And he's like, yeah, of course, come over. So it was kind of organic, fluid, and right there and got on. And that was right, I think, the year before we started doing the Faction Collective episodes.
Okay, because Faction, I mean, it was crazy how they exploded, and I guess I got ahead of myself, which I do all the time, and I'm going to jump back to another sponsor before Faction, because I heard a funny story about a very young Cody goes into a business meeting at Functionware, and can you talk about the attire that you went into your, like, big business meeting with?
Yeah, me and my buddy Mark came in wearing suits. We thought it was funny.
Did you do that on purpose to be a joke, or did you think that you were really going to a business meeting?
No, we were joking. I think it was kind of around the time we saw Step Brothers come out.
Okay.
So we're like, we should show up in suits. And I think it was just going to get some product from them, but we're like, we're going to do this.
Well, that's amazing, dude. I thought it was going to be that you guys were like young, dumb, and you thought you were going to impress them by wearing suits, which was funny enough to me. But you actually were calculated and showing that you had a sense of humor, which is even better. And I guess some of the things of being sponsored is you start going on trips, and I think Faction eventually starts giving you some money to go on trips. The first one is a big ski trip to France, and I hear that was just like a shit show from start to finish. Can you talk about how hard it was to get to Vars?
So that one was a contest, actually. Vars, I think it was the SFR tour. And me and my buddy Mark, who were competing at the time, we were doing all these different tours, and our buddy Lucas Evans. We had never been to Europe really before, and we were all just going, the three of us. We were young and had kind of no clue what was going on. Pretty much just had flights booked to, I don't know, like Geneva or wherever we had to go in France. And then had no plan of where to go. We didn't know where we were staying yet. And we had this contest a few days away. Luckily, the filmer Etienne from Faction had a friend, Tanguy, who was living in Vars. And so last minute, Tanguy hits us up, lets us know where his address is. I think my parents were freaking out. They hadn't heard from me in a super long time. But anyways, we get to this guy, Tanguy's house, and he's got this closet pretty much with 3 bunk beds stacked. And we're just like, oh, this is it? Okay, perfect. And so me, Lucas, and Mark were just staying in this closet. And we were there a few days early for the contest, which was rad, but we also had no money. So in order to ski, we worked park crew in the mornings with Tanguy for a few hours. We go and shovel and rake the jumps to the park and then get a ticket for the day. It was actually pretty awesome, but it was our first foray into European culture, and we had no idea what to do. We had to hitchhike everywhere, and it was pretty rad though.
That's funny. So the next time you went there, you actually planned stuff out a little bit better, or do you still keep it loose?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, now I do way too much planning and logistics, but back then we were pretty loose. I had no idea what was going on. Thought, just get to Geneva and then we'll figure it all out kind of thing.
Thinking about no idea what was going on, how about the time that you got the whole hotel evacuated? I heard something about that too.
What did you talked to a lot of people.
Right? I did a little bit,
Oh, man. Whistler was always a good time, as you know.
Yeah.
Things kind of escalate there pretty rapidly. Most years, the AFP championship at the end of the year was in Whistler. And they had the awards, and they had a big contest at the end of the year, and hopefully you're in the top 30 or something to qualify. But we would go to, Whistler for that at the end of the year. And there was one time we were hanging out in the room. I think it was Mark, me, maybe Ben Smith, Bobby was with us. We're all hanging, kind of pre-gaming. We decide to light a cigarette via the stove in the hotel room. This is at the old Holiday Inn. I don't know what it is now.
Okay.
But in Whistler Village. Anyways, the fire alarm goes off. We're like, oh, whatever. Let's just open the window, clear our room out. Anyways, we go outside of our door, and the entire building's fire alarm is on. This is 10, 11 p.m. or something like that. Everybody's out in the hallways. Everybody's evacuating the hotel. We're just like, oh, my God. We're like, go, 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 go. So we just run down the fire escape, run to the bar, and came back at a later evening, and everything was fine. But Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah, and probably at that time, Bobby is probably a big name at that point, and it would have been bigger news had you gotten busted for making everybody go outside, but you didn't. I would have loved now to have had that as a better story. You guys are glad that it didn't happen, but either way, where am I going to go here? I guess we've talked about contests, we've talked about travel a bunch, and your career, while it all started with contests, it was like you used contests as a vehicle to explore, and we've said that, but at your level of proness, you still need to work. So when you graduate school, like magna cum laude, I don't even know how you would say that because I didn't do that by any means, but you graduate with like very high honors. And when it's time to get a job in the real world, how do you end up being a graphic designer? It seemed like you studied environmental science.
Good question. I had done kind of a minor in, it was called communication design. It was kind of entrepreneurship and some design classes, art classes. I'd always been pretty artistic, I guess. Like, loved making films, loved designing, loved drawing. And so I kind of taught myself through my college years, I guess, to start using the computer a bit with graphic design. I originally wanted to start making clothes and start a clothing brand. So I learned how to make garment flats on Illustrator. And from there, just kind of learned the programs more and more and, started to get a little bit more competent. My old high school teacher, Slade Cogswell, he was my art teacher back in Vail. And he had started an agency in Edwards, Colorado, just outside of Vail.
Okay.
So after college, I had been working on my portfolio and reached out for an internship position. I think I was denied the first time I reached out, maybe during college, and then right after college, luckily got it. So that's kind of how that all started, I guess.
So you're able to learn a lot on your own, but then you get on the job as an intern, you're able to learn everything. Eventually you work your way to the top of the company. But I guess you went to the Vail Mountain School for high school and part of junior high school or whatever. So that's how you know that dude from being in Vail. And when you're there, I'm guessing that he knows that you've got this pro ski career. So is he flexible your whole life of like, hey, you can go on these trips in the winter and then we need you to work your ass off the rest of the summer?
Yeah, pretty much. He's been super supportive, which is great. Yeah, he's the man. Shout out to Slade. But since those early years, I guess, started in the summer with the internship and then stayed on through the fall as kind of a junior designer. Then when winter came, I went more to contract position. And then we sort of continued that way every year I was there and just kind of ended up working out.
That works out great because you're able to do things like go film for the collective video. And I would think, there was a collective series, but the big faction collective video, that was all of the most incredible athletes in the world, it seemed like. And how big of a deal was it to be included in that and go on that POW trip?
Yeah, that one was amazing. A lot of it kind of filmed just outside of Revelstoke between Revy and Golden. My first really backcountry trip. And especially a big touring trip. I was kind of a novice ski tourer at the time, and we were doing some really heavy days. That was me, Tim, Duncan, and A-Hall was on that one too, which was cool. But yeah, for me, it was a dream come true to be able to go shoot. And it was rad because I had, worked with Etienne, the main faction filmer, for quite a while before then as well. So we had, a strong kind of developed relationship, and it was, really cool to be with those guys. That trip was tough. It was a lot of hard work. Ski touring and filming, at that level was some really big days.
Yeah, and then you're doing that again when you shoot Roots with Faction. I think you go on another trip with A-Hall, McChesney, Dunk. When you go on trips with people like that, especially like backcountry trips when you're kind of new to all the stuff or newer than some of these dudes who've been out there a while, is it one of those things where they're pushing you kind of almost beyond your comfort zone?
Yeah, definitely. You want to show what you can do and you're watching everybody else. I think for me, it was really nice to just watch people and learn, especially maybe that first trip, like watching Duncan, watching his eye and seeing him move through the landscape it was so inspirational and incredible to just watch. We'd be filming and you'd have different breaks and you'd watch Dunk just go off on his own and just kind of go soul ski somewhere. Just be like, wow, like what an athlete, what a guy, what an eye. So it was cool.
And when you think about it like that, and you watch a guy like that, and I'm sure everybody's in awe of it, who are your favorite skiers to watch?
I feel like a lot of those early Breck guys who I was talking about, Rainville back in the day, some of the best style I'd seen on jumps, Delorme as well, and Duncan especially. Like I love watching Duncan ski. I think he's my favorite skier. But I think what was cool about growing up in Breck and watching these guys is we were all such big park skiers, but I think the culture there too was a lot of us were skiing outside the park. We kind of made a point to go maybe do top to bottoms where you'd ride the T-bar all the way up and you'd do like a full entire run through the park as well. And so it was always kind of just about skiing in general too, and kind of how you move through the mountain. And I think that's really what I was able to take away from a lot of those athletes.
Yeah, I would think it gets to be robotish if you keep doing it over and over and over and over again, and takes a little bit of the fun away.
Yeah, no doubt.
Did you ever get to ski or work with Candide?
Yeah. I'd done a few shoots with Candide, one in Keystone, which was super rad. I was young, kind of new to the faction team at that point, and we did this park shoot. I think it was for maybe season 2, episode 1, I want to say, one of those, a Keystone one, and then got to ski with him just a little bit in Verbier doing another shoot, but he wasn't there too long.
Do you get to hang out with that guy, or is he just one of those enigmas that everybody looks at and kind of talks about, but like he's just here and there and gone?
Yeah, enigma. I think when we were in Verbier, he rolled up via helicopter, was there for like the day, and then bounced via helicopter again.
And everybody was like, holy shit, we were just in the presence of greatness.
Yeah, he's just like, whoa. He's just doing his thing, and then as quick as he was in, is just out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so while he's been able to do stuff by himself on the hugest stage, you've been doing a lot of stuff by yourself, definitely on a smaller stage than Candide, but you've done a lot of solo missions and smaller projects. And the backbone of, at least one of them for sure, has been your Honey House bus. It's a really cool looking 1960s like Chevy, or I don't even know what it was, but you use it as your ski mission mobile, and it's pretty rad. You guys put a ton of love into it, you and your girlfriend, to get this thing going and be like this on-road piece of art / adventure machine. And it looks like it belongs in an episode of South Park. I feel like when you see that thing. Where does it live right now?
It's kind of funny that you say that, but it's in Fairplay right now, which is South Park.
All right, well, there we go. So it is where it belongs.
Yeah, that's so funny.
When you think of the bus itself, how much did it cost when you bought it?
It was $1,500.
Okay, and then how much do you think you've put into it since you bought it?
It's a good question. We used a lot of things were recycled. So we had all the wood was recycled except for some plywood and a couple 2x4s. The main things though were mechanical.
Yeah, like everything broke all the time, right?
Yeah. We probably replaced most things on that, but it's so simple, which is nice. I mean, the first time I picked it up in Idaho, we were driving down the highway after just getting it, and the engine rod blew. And so we had the engine seized. And so we had a rod knocking, and then I had to bring it right back to the mechanic there in Idaho, and then come back like a month later and pick it up. And so we had to get a new old Chevy kind of short block engine, but everything was pretty cheap, luckily, back then. Yeah, just pre-COVID. And then the major thing though was we had to get a new transmission. So that was a big one. But we did that during our film year with Maiden Voyage, the film we made with Picture. And for that film, I had made sure that we had, I think, 5 or 10K ready for breakdowns.
Okay.
And so we were able to cover the cost of the transmission, which was cool.
The way that you do things, because you talk about Picture. So let's talk about all your sponsor lists, because we should at least call them out. I think there's Zeal's one, Picture's one, Faction's one. Who else do you have?
Yeah, not running Zeal anymore.
Okay, well, they were one for a long time.
Yep, for a while. Right now, we've got Faction, Picture, Hestra, and ATK Bindings out of Italy.
Okay, so when Picture came on, did they just find you because they knew of you and your cool projects and they were like, we're going to get this artsy American to create some content with us? Or did you kind of seek them out and say, hey, I do this stuff and I work with Faction as well and I want to work with you guys? Or how does that all come together? Because it happened a little bit later in your career where it's not like you had this contest base to sell yourself on.
Yeah, no doubt. I was running Faction outerwear for a while and then that kind of stopped. So I was, I think, a year without anybody. And then Picture luckily happened through a network that I had, a network connection. This woman, Jessie, who used to work at Faction, was doing PR for them. And they were trying to grow a bit in the US. And my profile kind of fit what they were after. Somebody who's, in the backcountry doing mostly foot-powered objectives and, kind of had an eye for creativity and projects and storytelling. So at the time, I think the collective had just come out, so they had heard of me a bit. And then I had this project I was pitching with the bus, and that year was the year that they came on kind of in full force. We signed, I went to Teen and met everybody, and then we did the maiden voyage film that first year.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start out with Outdoor Research. And if you haven't checked out outdoorresearch.com in the past week or so, then you haven't seen the brand new winter line, which looks incredible. I could spend a lot of this ad telling you all the tech and why Outdoor Research is better, but know that in the 1980s and the early 90s, Outdoor Research built a reputation on functional quality outdoor gear that pushed the limits of innovative possibilities. And those who were function first were all about OR gear, because it was and it still is built better, and Outdoor Research is still pushing those limits of innovation. This year, the outerwear focuses on 3 new collections: the Cloud Chaser for backcountry and the Powderverse and Hemisphere collections for freeride, as well as some staples in the line like the Snow Crew collection. These outerwear systems are styled for and by athletes like Mark Adma, Troy Podnosak, Zoe Aitken, snowboarder Neil Provo, and others, and that's why this outerwear collection not only looks so good, but each piece is more functional than ever, and they're all you're going to need in any conditions. To find out more about the new collection, head on over to outdoorresearch.com. My final sponsor this round is Ski Idaho. And if you haven't skied in Idaho, then you're missing the best kept ski secret in the nation. Think 19 uncrowded ski areas with epic terrain that all get a ton of snow. In Idaho, you'll ski a lot more than you're waiting in line, and they really have something for everyone. When you visit Idaho, resorts like Sun Valley, Grand Targhee, Schweitzer, Silver, and Tamarack offer that on-mountain lodging experience, and there are so many other mountains to choose from throughout the state. Between the snow, the terrain, the award-winning restaurants, and experiences like horse-drawn sleigh rides, indoor water parks, spas, skating, guided snowshoeing, and so much more, I'm not kidding when I say there really is something for everyone this winter in Idaho. And if you haven't heard about the 5th and 6th grade passport program that allows kids to ride multiple times at each resort for only $29, you need to check it out. It's worth visiting Idaho just for that. To find out more about the passport program and all things skiing in Idaho, head on over to skiidaho.us. Those are my sponsors. Now it's time to jump back into the podcast. And to do a film like this, how much of a budget do you have to raise from all the brands to make it happen? I mean, do you have to raise 20 grand to create 9 to 10 minutes of content?
Yeah, Picture luckily footed the bill on that one, really. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but, it wasn't too much. But we had our friend Wiley Coppice, extremely, talented cinematographer and editor who was with us pretty much the entire time. He was kind of living on the road with us, and then he had lived in Bellingham during the time. He's from Silverthorne. But he was just, filming everything and with us the entire time. And we were just staying in the bus, so costs were low. And then Joey Schuessler was helping kind of in the post, and had come out for a week as well to help. He was kind of helping Wiley direct and get it all together.
So with all of your projects that you do, is it one of those things where it's like you definitely have a job? I mean, now you're with Faction. We'll talk about that transition in a bit. But you've got your job at 970 or whatever, and you're doing your design. But then do you think to yourself each season, like, I have to put together a project, and I have to put together a pitch deck, and you can do that because you're a designer, and that's easy for you. And I just have to sell myself, raise this money, and my ski season will pay for itself, and I just have to put out the content? Is that kind of the goal every year?
Yeah, I mean, definitely part of it. I think early on, it was kind of the financial aspect didn't really matter as long as, I guess like you said, the season was kind of paid for, right? And I think for me, that was sort of the budget never really dictated what I wanted to create. It was always start with what I wanted to create, and then hopefully we'd have the budget. And if not, I'd still find a way to make it happen,
Yeah.
I think it's always been like that, like being scrappy or just changing what it's going to look like in the end. But for me, it's always been, what am I interested in and what do I feel passionate about right now? And that's led me down all these different roads, I think.
And it's like your whole world has changed. When you look at you as an athlete when you were a kid, you're learning tricks and it's type 1 fun per se. And then as you get older, and we're going to talk about some of these trips that you do, but it's not type 1 fun anymore. It's like type 2 and type 3. Type 2 being like it doesn't seem like fun, and then you get home and you like high five, think it's awesome. And type 3 being it sucks most of the time the whole way through, and maybe there's some memories that are good, but it fucking sucked the whole way. But that seems like the route you've gone, and I will say that a lot of people as they get older, they get away from the pure adrenaline of the rush of either sending themselves or doing other stuff, and they get more into the fitness aspect of life. But you're only, how old are you?
32.
32. So did that happen to you early on? Are you like really into just punishing your body and stuff?
No, I'm not like a fitness dude. Like, I'd never say that I'm an endurance guy. I still kind of live for the downhill. But I like the experience, I guess. Like, I love the process, and I like being intentional about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So for me, that really comes through. And yeah, like a lot of the human-powered projects or the approach or something like that. I think I just learned so much more about myself, about the environment, and just want to be, I think, intentional about my choices, especially around skiing. I feel like it makes me a better athlete. It makes me feel connected to what I'm doing, and kind of like has a better outcome for myself and for hopefully the product.
Well, for like, let's think the first bike project that you did. I feel like you got off the couch, you get on your bike, and you're going to ride from Telluride to Moab, and you're going to ski along the way. Was there a lot of thought that went into it, or is it more just like, the season sucks, I need to create something, let's do this, and I'll bring this buddy, and we'll make it happen?
Yeah, kind of like a half and half. I mean, I'd been interested in bike to ski stuff and thought of this route and was like, yeah, I should just go try it. And it was during COVID as well, so it's kind of a funky year, but I had some friends, had, the equipment to be able to get loaned and be able to kind of just see what happens, I think.
You do another bike trip as well. Well, first, you do the project with Andrew Pollard, which I talked with Andrew about. It was 150 hours from home. And we don't really need to talk about that much because Andrew and I covered it. That was definitely your furthest project away from home. But your latest project, 100 Words for Wind, that looked like to be your hardest. Was the idea, I've been to Iceland before. I really want to see it this time. And I'm just going to do the whole bike to ski thing again, but I'm going to train?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I had been to Iceland, like you said. We had a slopestyle contest there, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something like that. And my girlfriend, Kellen, and I went out for that, and same with some other friends. And then had always wanted to do the entire ring road. We just drove from Reykjavik up to the North Capital Akureyri that time. And so I'd always wanted to do the ring road in its, entirety, just to be able to experience the entire, not the entire country, but a lot of different, I guess, ecosystems and environments and landscapes. And what a cool way to see a country via kind of one singular route. And so I had toyed with the idea for a long time, thought about biking in the summer, thought about maybe doing like a motorcycle to ski thing. But then as time grew on, I really got this idea I want to like bike to ski the entire route.
And it looked absolutely miserable. I mean, there were some great lines that you skied. It looked like you had like 2 sunny days or something like that when you were biking. You were biking, what, like 10 hours a day? You had to do 821 miles, I think, over 30 days. But then that really turned out to be like 1,050 miles or something crazy like that. And it all looked terrible. I mean...
Yeah.
When do you get to the point where like, why the fuck did I think to do this?
Well, I'll go back real quick to your previous one. You talked about training for this time.
Yeah, you were going to train, but you didn't.
Yeah, I have these ambitions to, like, maybe I'll go to the eastern plains of Colorado and go gravel bike this spring or something like that before we go. But I broke 8 ribs and my scapula and punctured my lung in February that year.
And scapula is a hard one to break.
Yeah, it's just, I hit a tree really hard in a landing. So that derailed my training regimen, I guess.
And your ski season, right?
Yeah, and the ski season. Yeah, of course. I didn't do anything for 8 weeks, and then we were on the plane 8 weeks later. I think I had biked maybe one bike ride to see if it was possible, and I was feeling pretty good. And yeah, skied maybe one day. So we just barely got it off. But yeah, that was a tough time. But Matt and I showed up in Reykjavik with all our stuff, and then I think that first day we left biking, I was really feeling like we were in over our heads. The wind was relentless. It was so heavy, the bike. I think they're, 100 pounds probably or something like that with all that stuff. And we're just like, what? thinking to myself, like, what? Like, we went maybe 30 miles the first day, and I was like, oh my God, dude, like, there's no way. But I think day by day, we kind of slowly chipped away at it, and every day seemed to get a little bit harder. And then we were just kind of able to find a groove in the difficulty of it, I guess.
Did you see any other bikers out there?
We saw one guy. This was in the eastern fjords, in this town, Statesfjordur. We were just getting to this town, and a ship from Denmark had just docked there. And so all the tourists with their cars were coming off of the ship from Denmark, and one guy was biking. So that was like, I don't know, probably May at that point.
And that was probably one of the highlights when you saw another guy on a bike. You're probably like, holy shit, there's another biker. But there can't be that much stuff to look forward to, right?
We were giving him some stoke, and I think he didn't really match our stoke levels. So
he's like, look at these idiots.
Like, yeah.
I'm only doing this because I have to for about 10 minutes, but these guys.
Yeah. I mean, incredible place, difficult place to bike. But I think that's what I wanted. I wanted to go and experience it, kind of in its entirety. And a bike is such a vulnerable way to do that. You can't hide, you can't do anything. You're in it. And so what a way to go experience the country. And what I had learned on the previous bike to ski trip was just the appreciation I have for the landscapes and the road. I remember even when I drive from Telluride to, Salt Lake, I go that way, that I did to Moab. And I just remember how I felt at each little part of the road and, the entirety of that experience. So I think it's just such a cool way to be in a place.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a great way to see everything. It's just the time of year that you saw everything looked like the most miserable time of year, but I guess that's when you're going to go ski. So it's just part of the game there. But what can you do, right?
Yep, pretty much. When you're trying to find that blend of good ski conditions and semi-passable bike conditions, you kind of get what you get.
Then when you think about the other side of your life, the business side of your life, you eventually transfer from your job in Colorado to working for Faction, your ski sponsor. How does that all happen?
I've done a couple graphics for Faction. I did some mono skis and things like that.
They sell a lot of mono skis?
I don't know if we have any for sale right now, but we used to do pretty good, I think.
Okay. I mean, because it's not one of those things that you see that much anymore because not too many brands make them. I didn't know Faction made them.
Yeah, we have a mono, and we had a split mono, too, for a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure the split was a hot seller out there in Euroland.
Yeah, it's pretty epic. But, yeah, they kind of knew my design background. I had designed a few things. I had helped with some clothing, stuff like that, too. And then a few years ago, we were discussing contracts and moving forward and stuff. I had a few offers from other brands, and they kind of asked what my goals were. And one of them, beyond skiing, was, I kind of want to enter this space as a designer, creative director. I had seen what Ben Chetler was doing at Atomic and, felt like that was a potential path for me in the future, maybe more close to the end of my skiing career. But Faction had this idea to kind of bring me in a little bit earlier. And I've been working with them now as, I guess, the head of creative.
So it's the best of both worlds for you. They're going to allow you to do your creative projects as well. They're also going to give you some budget to do them because you're an employee, and you get to create skis. What's the hardest part about designing two toothpicks?
Skis are a tough canvas. I think there's so many little factors to think about when you're designing on skis and trying to make things work. It's just, it's tough. You have two of them, not just one, kind of like a snowboard. So it's different styles and things that you have to work with. I think what we do well is we have input from so many people, which is, I guess good and bad, but hopefully ends up with a great product at the end. But we take input from all the sales guys from all the different places all over the world. We work with a ton of different artists. I get to design some myself, but I think we have like a great collaborative approach, which has been cool.
All right. Well, the next part of our podcast is something that I call Inappropriate Questions. And this is where I get someone that to ask 3 questions, and they can be anything. But before I introduce who's going to ask the inappropriate questions, I have one that just came up during the podcast because you had mentioned that your girlfriend of 10 years or something like that, or how long have you been dating your girlfriend?
Well, we're actually newly engaged.
Okay, because I was going to say, what the fuck? She has to be so pissed and be like, when are you going to ask me to marry you? But how did you do it?
Yeah, we were actually in Scotland in November. We had gone back to Iceland this fall, and we'd done a premiere there of the film. And then we went over to the UK I was going to this Kendall Film Festival there as well to show the film. And so my partner, Colin, was with me. And I'd been waiting for the right time, had for a while now, and just wanted it to be special and like really be kind of thoughtful about it. And so it was just us in the Scottish Highlands and kind of this beautiful peak right behind us. And yeah, I asked her to marry me.
That's so nice. Were you wearing a kilt?
No, should have. We were wearing matching sweaters though, almost. So next best thing.
All right. Well, that's very cute. Now it is time for us to jump into inappropriate questions. I'm glad that you asked her to marry you. I'm glad that she said yes. She probably thought many of times, like, I have been dating this guy for way too long. He's got to ask me, but you finally did. That's great. So now I was able to get a guy who's got prerogative. I mean, every little step he takes seems to take him to the X Games podium, and he also seems to go wherever you are. I'm talking about your legendary friend from Breckenridge who now lives in Telluride. The never inappropriate Bobby Brown is going to ask you 3 inappropriate questions. And are you ready for question number 1 from Bobby?
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right.
What's up, Cody? I got a couple questions for you, dude. I'll never forget walking in and meeting you for the first time when we were 12. I think you had Fate pants on, a Giro visor helmet, and spikes on your Oakleys. I got to know, where was the kid advice coming from back in the day?
Oh, man. Yeah, I had that little rebellious spirit. I think that was some T-Hall inspo back in the day. And then some of the other kids on the Next X Snow search, if you ever remember that, a lot of them were starting to wear studs in their goggles. We had them coming through the little vents in the top of the, was it Oakley A-frames?
Okay, yep.
And also had like little ones just on the logos on the strap. I thought those were so sick. And then the Fate pants, yeah, classic mogul steez. Our coach at the time, Chris Hawks and Chris Carson, they both rocked Fate for a long time. We loved Fate.
Big knee patches on those things.
Oh yeah.
That is question number 1. Let us jump into question number 2 from Bobby.
All right, another question for you, dude. I once heard you survived on 90% hot dog and 10% Snickers for 5 weeks. I got to know how your body didn't shut down after that stint.
So what's the deal with that? What's the deal with the diet?
Yeah, that was our Iceland diet. I mean, like I said, I think earlier, the budget hasn't really dictated the adventure. And so Matt and I weren't really working with a ton. And so we were kind of just eating. It felt like students maybe on ultra marathon diets.
But you were eating tortellini, not hot dogs, right?
Tortellini. Yeah, there were some Icelandic hot dogs in there. They're cheap, and it was kind of like a welcome treat when you'd be able to escape into a gas station, And then Snickers were pretty clutch. A little bit of protein in those and just enough sugar to kind of keep you going. We brought those out when we needed them the most,
Yeah, I can imagine that's like the highlight of any day that you had was eating those Snickers.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, the perspective shift, I guess, when the Snickers is, such an important part of your day and how, small these things can be, but how meaningful they are. Yeah.
I was interviewing Angel Collinson, and she was talking about how she'd go on these trips with her family and they'd have like one Starburst for like a week, and she could just take little pieces and make it last because that was that important, was just having candy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're getting smoked like all day by winds on your bike or something like that, and it's such a little reprieve to have a Snickers waiting for you or something like that.
When's your movie available? I mean, it's available to the public right now, right? It's out there.
Yeah, that one's on YouTube. And then Faction, our Mongolia film, comes out tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't realize that wasn't out. I just happened to see that way earlier, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's on the docket for next year? Or this season? What are you working on?
Yeah, I think Matt and I are working on a expedition this spring. And then we have a Faction film this winter as well, kind of coming up soon. That we'll start shooting for a short, not a full film or anything, but yeah, a lot of exciting little things this spring, I think.
All right, now your final inappropriate question from Bobby. Let's see what he's got for you.
You're a back-to-back Telluride Halloween costume winner. What do you and Kel have planned for 2027?
All right, what did you win with first?
Well, this year we didn't have a contest, but we were psyched on ours this year. We were kind of classic devils, but we had sewn our hats together through this pattern Kel got with this kind of stand-up felt. We were kind of super vintage inspired, and they're pretty fun. We were just ripping around on our little e-bike together with these like 2 little devils, just like smoking cigs around the town. Looked pretty funny.
Okay.
And then last year we were pagan, almost mountain creatures, if you will, kind of inspired by a lot of European folklore and stuff like that. So we had these masks that we made with kind of looked like goats, and we made these giant fur costumes. The year before I think we were The Shining.
Okay.
And we were pretty good on that one. I had like a door around my face. And then we were Martians one year too. That one was pretty good. Yeah, my fiance Kellen, she goes pretty all in for Halloween. It fires her up. And it's fun to be creative. So we just have fun doing some craft nights.
Nice. Well, I'm a big fan of Halloween as well, and that is Inappropriate Questions, and that's our podcast. And the beauty of you is, while that you grew up in a ski factory, not everyone in that ski factory is going to be the next Bobby Brown, but everyone has to figure out their own way throughout the ski industry and find their niche. And the way you've done it with school, a real job, and pro skiing, you've been able to make this whole pro skier thing last longer than most competition skiers. And there's no sign of slowing down anytime soon. Sounds like you have a project already in the spring, and you're going to do the same thing next year and to keep this thing going as long as you possibly can. And it's a cool thing to see. I thank you for telling your story, and I thank you for your time.
Yeah, Mike, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate your time, and have a great season. Appreciate you.
So that was time with Cody Cirillo, and my takeaway here, other than the way Cody created a career in the industry through his ski and artistic talent, is that Cody must be so busy all the time. Between his athlete projects, the design work at Faction, and having a life, and this is coming from a guy who works 3 jobs, I know that Cody doesn't have much time for anything else but work, skiing, and life. And Cody seems stoked on that, and that's what it's all about. That's the podcast. At this point, I want to thank you for listening and ask you to review me wherever you listen. That and telling a friend sure does help the show grow, and that's important to me. And what keeps the show growing is my amazing sponsors. So thank you to Insta360 Video, Elan Skis, Outdoor Research, Best Day Brewing, and Ski Idaho. Have a great week, everyone.